amongst Turkish Muslims who were to provide a much wider vision of the Turkish problem. These three groups took power after the putsch of July 1908, which re-established the constitution and grew in influence inside the Ottoman Empire, extending Ottoman power in the period 1908 to 1914, following two antagonistic trends. One, coming mainly from Paris and the diaspora, which had been in contact with the Armenians, wanted what was known as Ottomanism, a concept based on harmonious coexistence of all minorities and all forming part of the Ottoman Empire. Opposed to this Ottomanism was Turkish nationalism, initially expressed as Turkishness, a concept that can be summarized in the phrase Turkey for the Turkish, and pan-Turkishness, meaning the expansion of Turkey beyond the Turkey of the Turkish people, and particularly to Azerbaijan, and even beyond to pan-Turanianism, which simply means the dream of reuniting all the Turkish peoples of Central Asia as far as the Pacific. The Armenians constituted an obstacle to this vision, for a very simple reason: geography. These Turkish nationalists would lose the Balkans, and as the Balkans splintered during the Balkan Wars, Turkey would be reduced to a tiny stump, the area it currently occupies, a little smaller at the time, around Constantinople. It would be essentially Anatolian Turkey, because the Ottoman Empire was occupied by the Arabs in the south. But the Turks knew very well that they had no future there, as the land belonged to other peoples. But this Anatolia was sacred for the young Turks and their nationalism, and it was also the starting point for their expansionist ambitions into Azerbaijan, first of all, and then further into Asia. So, what race stood between the two? The Armenians. They were the only people, the only large minority to resist conquests and invasions by all the hordes or armies in this land for more than 20 centuries. 27 centuries. And did they stay here? Even after the massacres. There was only one solution in the criminal logic of the young Turks: eradication. A concept that Hitler would understand during the Second World War, when, having attempted to expel them, he eradicated the Jews of Europe by murdering them. Thus, eradication was the final solution to the Armenian question. The only definitive solution to the Armenian question. But unlike the events after National Socialism, or more recently after the war in Rwanda, the murderer held on to power. That is the problem. When all is said and done, the Armenian Genocide benefited the murderer, and what Mustafa Kemal preserved in a crime he denounced when he did not yet hold power was the benefit of this crime, vital for the Turkey he dreamt of creating. That is, Eastern Anatolia emptied of its Armenian population. There could never again be Armenians in Eastern Anatolia. There could never be any Armenian claim on Eastern Anatolia, and therefore genocide could never have happened. QED. It is interesting that in 1919, the Ottomans were defeated. An armistice was signed at Mudros, and a new government succeeded the Young Turks, who abandoned power at the end of 1918. This government was already in place at the end of 1918, and from the beginning of November 1918, it summoned Parliament, or what was left of it, in a bid to drag these criminals before a court of law. They were very briskly tried on the basis of documentation which was already very extensive at the time.
But what led this government to want to actually try them?
The reason is very simple. It wanted to obtain satisfactory conditions for the peace conferences due to get underway at Versailles. The crimes committed were known to all in the international arena, particularly the Americans and Canadians. The documents were there. The crimes had been spoken of almost immediately. It was impossible to hide them. Therefore, their only solution was to blame the defeated government and the Young Turks. Turkey found itself with the old structure of the Ottoman Empire in 1919-1920, with the Sultan and the Grand Vizier, instead of this growth in nationalist spirit. The Turks came to the table in Versailles very cautiously, with the rope around their necks, as it were, especially the Grand Vizier, Damat Ferit Pasha, when he came to Versailles to request pardon for Turkey for the abominable crimes committed not by the Turkish people, but by the Young Turks.
De ces abominables crimes qui ne sont pas la faute du peuple turc, mais des jeunes Turcs.
Thus, the advantages of the trials and the sentences. The process was facilitated by the fact that the majority of the Young Turks had already fled, especially to Germany. The death sentences were pronounced in absentia. The trials concluded that there could be no doubt that the premeditated and organized destruction of the Armenians in the Ottoman Empire was initiated at the highest level of the Party of Union and Progress. Rather than on the government, blame fell on this party, some of whose members were part of the government, such as the Minister for War and the Minister of the Interior, and in particular on the Party Central Committee. The trials highlighted the previously unknown and secret special organization. This structure operated between the center, the government of Constantinople, and the provinces, dispatching plenipotentiaries with supreme authority to make decisions, and whose authority extended to both the military and the civil authorities when they wanted to kill, arrest, or kill groups of Armenians. The trials revealed this special organization, and in hindsight, as the word genocide only appeared in 1944, the proof that this was truly genocide. The concerted plan was laid bare with all its workings, all the details, and all the interference by various ministries. Bands of militia were recruited in the prisons, organized and armed by the War Ministry and sent out.